right, after 600,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus in the United States and nearly 30,000 deaths, President Trump has announced he is halting funding to the United Nations World Health Organization while his administration looks into the WHO's cover-up of China's deception of coronavirus.
Today, I'm instructing my administration to halt funding of the World Health Organization while a review is conducted.
Joining me now on this and more is House Minority Whip Steve Scalise, who represents the 1st Congressional District of my home state of Louisiana. Steve, welcome back to the program.
Tony, always great to be back with you.
So let me ask you this right out of the chute. You support the president in halting funding until we can get to the bottom of how the WHO handled the coronavirus?
I do. I'm really glad President Trump took this action because there have been a lot of concerns raised about WHO and especially their director who's really been a true mouthpiece of the Chinese government when you think about how the Chinese Communist government was responsible for not only what happened in Wuhan where this virus was created, but really it's been the cover-up, the attempt to keep the facts away from the United States and the rest of the world, where we could have done a lot to prevent the spread outside of Wuhan, China, and instead, by their cover-up, it may have led to this global pandemic and of course, all the devastation we're seeing in our country.
You know, I find it interesting, the left's response to this, saying that the move could deal a real setback to world health because WHO is needed to combat disease, in particular the coronavirus that has sickened nearly 2 million people worldwide. But they didn't help prevent its spread, so how are they going to deal with it now because of their ineffectiveness?
Right, and that may have credence if WHO was at the lead forefront of helping prevent the spread of coronavirus, where instead they were actually at the forefront of trying to cover it up. And keep in mind, the World Health Organization does not have a good track record when it comes to these global outbreaks. I mean, just look at what happened in 2014 with the Ebola outbreak. And, great respected groups like Doctors Without Borders talked about the response from WHO as non-existent when you saw what happened there. So really, there are many other organizations that are very effective at helping identify and protect people from outbreaks and diseases. And unfortunately, WHO has been left behind, and they've become part of the problem in the case of trying to protect China and what China did to not only create this disease, but to prevent the world from finding out what was really going on so that they could stop the spread of this disease.
Yeah, that seems to be a major factor that many have raised questions about, is that the WHO is very China-centric and, in fact, took efforts to provide cover, really, for China and their hesitation to tell the world what was happening. In fact, new reports out saying that they basically sat on this for 6 days. The Chinese Communist Party sat on it for 6 days before even alerting their own people in Wuhan, China, even though there were gatherings, massive gatherings going on. Some experts predict or project that this could have cut the spread by 2/3.
Yeah, it's dramatic and incredibly disappointing when you see just how the Communist Chinese government tried to cover it up. But then when you look at Dr. Tedros, the director of WHO, he was literally reading Chinese talking points in the things he was saying. And that's not the kind of objectivity you want from a medical organization if they're going to have any credibility. That's why you've seen so many people calling for the director to be removed if you're going to restore credibility to WHO. And we all deserve to be held accountable for the things we say and do. And if you've got an agency that's lost that credibility, either you move away from them and go somewhere else, which is what President Trump is doing, or you see the agency itself identify that they've got a problem and fix it, and they've yet to do that.
Now, Congressman Scalise, what about China? I mean, obviously, there's a problem here with WHO. It's a UN body that should be working for the entire, membership of the United Nations, as opposed to just covering for China. But China here, the trail of evidence is building that they were not just neglective. They didn't just neglect to provide information, but they were deceptive in the way they handled it.
They really were, Tony. And you look at the fact that at the very beginning there were medical experts in China that wanted the United States to come in and bring our expertise through the Centers for Disease Control to help them figure out what was going on and to help them control it internally as well as to stop the spread. And then the Chinese government stepped in and said no, would not let us in. I mean, CDC experts were ready to go. I was at a meeting at the White House, and President Trump was on top of this from the beginning, trying to find out and help stop the spread in China. They wouldn't let us in, and that's when you saw the president take the step that saved so many lives, untold lives, by saying we're not going to allow flights coming in from China. But by then they had allowed it to spread to other countries, and especially in Europe, where most likely the real prevalence that we saw in the United States came from parts of Europe where it did spread out of China. So China could have done a lot to not only protect their own people in reaching out and letting other countries help them with this, but then by clamping down and literally trying to stop the spread of information, they exacerbated the spread of the disease.
Right. And by the way, when the president took those steps, the WHO was critical of saying that was not going to have any effect of limiting flights from or out of China. So thankfully, the president took those steps anyway. Speaking of, I want to move on. Yesterday, we had the Senate Majority Leader on the program discussing a number of issues, religious liberty issues, and churches that are attempting to meet within the CDC guidelines. But we also touched on the Paycheck Protection program, which you were a key part of drafting and making sure that churches, nonprofits were involved in it. And it's been very successful, rolling out in just 6 days from the date that the president signed it, and it's working so well that they're about out of money. And so there's an effort to try to get about another $250 billion in, but that's being blocked. And Senator McConnell said yesterday it could be out of money by the end of the week. Any movement on the Democrats blocking this measure?
Unfortunately, Tony, they are digging in their heels to block the ability for these small businesses to get relief. I mean, this program, the Paycheck Protection Program, has been a lifeline. I mean, truly described as one of the most successful programs to save small businesses in this country that are teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. We don't want to see that happen. We don't want those millions of employees, those people that work for small businesses all across our country, to have to be stuck on the unemployment lines. The whole idea is that we bring them off the unemployment rolls, back on the worker rolls, and hopefully we start talking about getting the economy opened again. But there is no economy if we don't have these small businesses to come back to. And so just when this program has taken off and been incredibly successful, and how often do you have a federal government program up and running this quickly that's actually meeting the needs of businesses and workers, you would want to keep this going. And right as it's taking off and being so successful, Pelosi and Schumer are trying to block it and kill it and literally extinguish the program as it's about to run out of money. As you said, literally by tomorrow, this program could be out of money. And the president has rightfully said, I want another $251 billion to put into this program to keep it going so that we can keep those small businesses afloat. Otherwise, it'll cost the federal government a whole lot more money if you have 10, 15 million people on a sustained unemployment roll for months or longer to come. Let's keep those small businesses alive. Pelosi's got to end these games. And I think any small business who's talking to their banker today and saying, hey, if I get you the paperwork tomorrow, can I get the loan? If the banker is going to be telling them tomorrow the program ran out of money, there's one place to go, and that is to Speaker Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who are holding it up. I think just like when you saw the Kennedy Center debacle where they held up for days that small business relief so they could get their pet projects like the Kennedy Center funded, right as they go and lay off all the workers and the musicians, they're doing it again. And I think the public's tired of this kind of politics, Tony. We should all be pulling together at a time like this, not one group trying to hold another group hostage to their demands. Let's go and keep these programs afloat, keep these small businesses afloat.
Yeah, I think people need to realize the importance of this. This is to keep these small businesses, the engine idling until the economy gets going again in another 60 days, 45, 60 days, so that these folks aren't put into, as you said, in the unemployment line, where we're already seeing 16 million Americans applying for unemployment. So this is a smart move. That way the economy is, at least the business is idling until we get things moving again. Without that, we could have a real slowdown of the economy. And I wonder, is that what Pelosi and Schumer want, because they think it's going to affect the November elections and look poorly on the president?
Well, clearly people can wonder what their motives might be, but at the same time, when you have a program that's working so successfully, and PPP, this is not a Republican or Democrat program. Right. If you're a small business in San Francisco, you're right now hanging on by a thread, and the only thing that keeps that San Francisco small business open is this Paycheck Protection program. So it helps everybody. She's hurting everybody by keeping this program down.
Yeah, well, I tell you, hopefully they'll come to their senses. Steve Scalise, thanks so much for joining us. As always, great to talk with you.
Great being with you. God bless, Tony.